Hello, and welcome to another edition of No Lies Paranormal, where three nerdy paranormal investigators sit down and discuss spooky stories from the web. My name is Joe, the lead investigator.
My name is Teresa, and I am your researcher.
And I'm Alex, the Baba Yaga enthusiast and equipment setter-upper.
Woohoo!
Not upgraded. Got
Not
got the update.
today.
Haven't got the update yet.
Nope.
All right, sorry, I was taking a drink. So yeah, we're going right back into just the spooky stories from around the world. I think we have some good ones set up. So before we do that, let's get into spooky news.
Indeed. So I have a couple of different things, actually, and I'm going to keep it light because I know, right? So I actually want to cover all of the random basics that we all are well aware of. Of course, Landal's Mohican Castle is going to have many more events. They're going to be doing Friday, April 18th, Friday, April 19th, the 25th, and the 26th, and they go all the way into May. It is a spring and summer ghost walk. They are $27 per person, and you can go and hang out with them, and they do the Hade Cemetery as well, which is kind of awesome. So, yep, there's that one. There is, of course, the Para-X Paranormal Experience on May the 2nd at the Lake County Historical Society, which is at 415 Riverside Drive in Paynesville, Ohio. From 1852 until 2004, the Lake County Poorhouse, or aka the Lake County Home, had given shelter to numerous residents, both wicked and benign. Hear their tales. $47 per person. Starts on May the 2nd at 9 p.m. and ends on May the 3rd at 1 a.m. Then we go to a fundraiser. This one is Psychic Medium, an evening with Beth Deering, a horse of a different color. I gotta be honest, I don't know what that means. But it is at Loft 1880, which is a wedding and event venue at 129 Worcester Street in Lodi, Ohio. Tickets range between $32.50 and $65 per person, and they are going to just simply enjoy a night filled with a unique perspective of Beth Deering, a psychic medium who sees things in a whole different light. And this one is a fundraiser. Every ticket sold helps a child in need through equine therapy, which I think is pretty awesome. And then, of course, we have our paranormal experiences at Coco's. And that was a good Coco's Selfie Space at 530 Euclid Avenue in Cleveland, Friday, April 25th, 6 to 10 p.m. Doors open at 5:30. General admission, $35 a person. Join us for a spooky night of ghost hunting and supernatural encounters at Coco's Selfie Space. So, that is all for now for spooky news.
All right, and spooky news is spooky news.
You know, I'm going to say this. I feel like Coco's Selfie Space owes you something at this point.
All right.
I agree. The Beth Deering lady kind of does too. I don't know her.
Yeah,
but
you're always shouting out something that she's doing. So yeah,
Landal's Mohican Castle. Normally Beth Deering is there doing dinner.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should reach out to these people for like
Sponsors.
a sponsorship or something.
Something. So.
Well, they're always doing something, which to me is the coolest shit, because, like, we need more normalization in the paranormal world. Let's have fun. Let's give
That
people
just sounds so odd.
normalization and paranormal in the same sentence.
Yeah, because it's not something normal. So.
It is, however, paranormal.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Oh, snap.
Yep. All right.
Oh, I love it.
So let's get into the stories. I, however, are going to be going last this time.
Oh, I have a cough.
Are you dying?
It's my week to have the cough.
Are we going to haunt you?
Potentially.
All right.
Maybe.
So yeah, I'm going to be going last because I have a story.
That is provocative.
Yes, but also I want to see if it ties into what you guys are talking about. I don't know if it will or not, but I'm going to be going last because this is going to garner discussion.
So Alex and I actually went on the same page, and we both decided to do a pretty popular places in a very specific country due to our newest group of listeners. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the statistics over there?
No, it's just our newest group of listeners or listener. I don't know if one guy just listened to a lot of us recently or...
I mean, I'm cool with it.
But We randomly had a quick jump in download specifically from Spain. So,
Very
fun.
cool.
so to be fair, that's generally sometimes how I pick out my own topic is I'm like, ooh, I guess I'll do someplace in Spain.
Yeah, who's listening
Huh.
today? So, Mr. Person, Mrs. Person, out there in Spain, we would love to hear from you.
Señorita.
I would love to know where you are from in that absolutely stunningly beautiful country,
Or if you click the wrong button.
and clicked it 53 times, which is cool.
Fair.
It's cool. I still like you. But yes, so I'm actually doing a pretty popular haunting in Barcelona.
Nice. All right.
What about you? You want to go first, or you want me to go?
Go for it.
All right, I got this.
Rip us off with Barcelona.
Barcelona's most haunted places, and one of them is the Grand Theater de la Salle, and it is friggin' stunning, absolutely stunning. So this place is, I don't know if you've ever seen like photos or anything of Barcelona,
Mhm.
but it is very, very walking oriented.
Yeah.
Everything is like, relatively narrow streets, and there's just buildings lining absolutely everywhere. It is truly beautiful.
Okay.
So this one, the theater is sort of right on the main drag, and it is said to be cursed.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see that on a paranormal podcast.
What was I thinking?
Didn't even see it coming.
No.
So there are lots of interesting names that this place has gone by. The Great Lyceum Theater, just simply the Lusau. It is situated on La Rambla, which is the street. It is the city's oldest theater building, still in use for its original purpose. It was originally founded in 1837, but it was founded at a different location at that time. And then the La Salle opened at its current address on April 4th of 1847. This place has seen some serious shit. So, for starters, it is, by capacity, one of the absolute largest opera houses in all of Europe. At the time that the whole thing first started, it was originally built on land that housed basically like a church. And the church, so we'll call it the first La Salle Theater between 1847 and 1861. There was an architect by the name of Miguel Garriga, and he was the one who was in charge of the construction. It was April 4th of 1847, Easter Sunday, when the theater was inaugurated with pretty significant public impact because it was just huge and beautiful, and for its time, it was absolutely state-of-the-art and the largest theater by capacity that you could have found in multiple countries. The opera came on April 17th with Anna Bolena, who was an opera singer, and she did some pretty great things there. Anyway, point to the story here. When it first opened, it was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. But it sat on the grounds of what used to be a church that was then basically disassociated by the government. So it kind of was like a defunct, declassified church, if you will.
Yeah.
But there were nuns, there were monks, and there were lots and lots of deaths of nuns and specifically monks. They were chained to walls. They were locked in the basement in basically what would have been like a cellar of crazy evilness. And a lot of this came during the time when Christianity was really sort of making its thing. So it really had a whole lot to do with, just one religion versus another, very crusade-ish. And it became a big deal, and lots of monks were tortured and crucified on the grounds. So that in itself, some people believe probably had a little bit to do with what was considered the curse. At that point, the original building, not 110% certain what really happened, but there was a fire and it burnt to the ground. At that point, they moved it to its current location. Once it was in its current location, oh, I'm so sorry, it was called the Trinitarian Convent building in Barcelona's on that road. So the Building Society and the Auxiliary Building Society, which were two different shareholders of the Building Society that obtained a permanent right to use the theater boxes and seats in exchange for like basically economic contributions.
Yeah.
So basically just elite rich people. The monarchy is responsible in Europe, most all of Europe, for funding theaters. Well, this ended up becoming these two guys basically just, or not even guys, societies of rich people that funded this place for their own special purposes. So this is the very first theater that actually was not funded by the monarchy, but instead, quote unquote, private societies or private donors. So that's another thing that made it kind of interesting. Once it reopened, everything was great. It wasn't just opera at that point. They started bringing in stage, they started bringing in plays, all kinds of cool stuff. Nothing that you would consider like vaudeville, but it was definitely like plays, Shakespeare, Macbeth, all the big ones. Then the Civil War came. The Civil War over there happened between 1862 and 1940. Well, it was actually on November 7th of 1893. It was the season's opening night. They were having an opera by the name of Guillermo Tell, which for me is a hard one. And a guy, and a complete anarchist basically, named Santiago Salvador, was really pissy with the idea of all the social unrest, and especially how this place was just like money and opulence, you know? Yeah. And so he took 2 Orsini bombs and chucked them into the building.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, phenomenal. One of them actually went off. The other one, thankfully, did not. With that said, that bomb killed 20 people and injured countless more.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that was a pretty big blow, so the place was closed down and had to be rebuilt all over again.
Right.
A lot of the original structure still did stand, but a huge portion in the back of the theater was completely rebuilt. So after that happened, opera really kind of started to become big again, and it was a huge deal, and the place was just packed all the time after it reopened. So things were going and everything was gravy. And then the building caught fire again. This time they don't actually have any idea how the building caught fire, but it did. And it burnt almost 100% completely to the ground.
Right.
So that was rebuilt for a third time.
Third time's charm.
Right.
You took the joke right out of my mouth.
After that, the ghost sightings and whatnot have just been insane. Totally rampant. So, as far as the Trinitarian Order of Monks, that was in 1662, and it was actually, the order was begun as basically to free Christians from the captivity of Muslims who were, because Christians were trying to make sort of an impact at that time.
Right.
This was the time literally of the Crusades in the Middle East and Spain, and it was just a big, horrible ordeal. So whether the legend is true or not, I do not know. Nobody really knows. But as many as 60 monks were tortured and killed during a huge riot and buried on the grounds. And they're saying that is the curse. So as far as the fires go, the building was severely damaged by fire twice, and once it was bombed. The last fire was actually in 1994, so it was not all that long ago. Apparently, what had happened was, some speculate, that a spark accidentally fell onto a curtain, and that's what started the whole thing.
Okay.
During almost 30 years since it's been reopened, there's been no more damaging scandals, and the building has remained intact for now. So Is the curse lifted? Who knows? When we go on to talk about hauntings, some of the most interesting hauntings are a woman who is said to be an opera singer who had passed away when the building was bombed. So she is seen in many of the places backstage, dressing rooms, on the stage itself. There is a visitor, like a guest, who sits in the seats, and people have seen him as a full-bodied apparition. People have heard singing coming from the stage, like operatic singing. They have heard music from the orchestra, because this place didn't, like, its plays and its operas would come and go and, switch from time to time, and those people were not regulars of the theater. They were like traveling troops. But the people that was in the down section where they did all the music for the place, those people were full-time employees of the LaSalle. So they were there all the time, year round. And those people can still be heard playing their instruments, everything from horns to violins to harps, just random times, day and night. The lights go on and off, the curtain drops when it's not supposed to, opens when it's not supposed to. These days, since it was recently rebuilt as recent as 1994, the place is completely state-of-the-art. The stage rises and lowers, and it makes way to have like 3 different stage sets all set up at the same exact time, where they literally just rotate in and out for different scenes. The lighting is crazy. The audio is crazy. But yeah, apparently this is one of the most haunted buildings ever in downtown Barcelona. Lots and lots of very, very unfortunate shit happened there.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's every good ghost story starts.
Exactly.
It's an unfortunate event, but a necessary event.
Every good ghost story starts with a tragedy.
It's true.
Interesting thing to look up.
This place it's absolutely insane, though. I mean, they some of the like statistics of the building are written down here, and I mean, we're talking about, so during the COVID pandemic, right? They had a performance of 2,292 house plants. That was the guest list. They did a play for 2,292 house plants because they could not have people sitting that close to each other in the theater. And it was live streamed on social media, and each plant was then donated to a healthcare worker at a hospital clinic of Barcelona.
Nice.
Oh, well, that's kind of cool then.
Yeah. The hall and the staircase, this is where most of the opera singers, and they've even had stagehands, they've had concession people, they've had janitors, all seen in complete full body apparitions.
Yeah.
People have seen monks, people have seen nuns, heard church bells when there's no church bell in that building.
Church bell.
The seating capacity is, of course, the 2,292, which is why they had that many houseplants. The typical Italian horseshoe theater has a maximum length and width of 32 by 27, which is basically 108 feet and 89 feet. The auditorium on the main floor, there are 5 balconies, boxes with small rooms attached in the front of the stage. There are no columns in the theater, only in the main entrance. There's so much about this building, and it is just so humongous and so grand and so gorgeous. And it's just 19th century gold and brass and iron and beautifulness.
So all that pomp and circumstance that came with that era.
Exactly.
Huh?
Only updated for the modern era.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
So not only is Barcelona beautiful, it also has that.
I did reach out, actually, and I have not yet I'm gonna check right now. I have not, that I am aware of, yet gotten a response. There is an incredibly beautiful and popular opera singer who made her debut at the LaSalle not super long ago. Her name is Nadine Sierra. She was one of the lead singers on a couple of plays, actually. So I have reached out to her to ask her specifically if her time, the LaSalle, had any sort of paranormal stuff goings on.
Yeah.
Nothing yet. But that was just on Tuesday, so it would be pretty amazing to get an answer from her.
Yeah.
And if I do, I'll let y'all know.
Plus probably the thousands of emails that she gets, but
Literal. So,
Alright.
yeah.
Cool.
That's
Definitely.
my story. So what do you got for us, Al?
So my story is from a place in Spain. So on the outskirts of a place called Malaga, Spain, sits an abandoned silhouette of an imposing 19th century mansion known as Cortijo Jurado, locally known as Casa Encantada, or the Enchanted House. This once grand estate now lies in ruin. Its 365 windows, dark and hollow, yes, one for every day of the year, as the design famously boasts. Cortijo Jurado was born out of wealth and ambition, built in the mid-1800s by the influential Heredia family. The mansion was part of a grand vision to transform a humble farm into an agricultural paradise. The Heredias were among Andalusia's richest families. They spared no expense. The mansion's eclectic architecture features neo-Gothic English flair with even Nordic decorative touches, all organized around a central courtyard with a chapel and a tower lookout. So large was this estate that it included extensive stables and deep-running cellars, rumored to hide secret passageways. A local lore held that underground tunnels stretched from Cortijo Jurado to a nearby mansion owned by the Larios family, who were close friends with the Heredias, allowing the two wealthy clans to visit or conspire in absolute secrecy. Modern excavations have never confirmed the passageways, but the mere possibility of their existence has only fueled the mystery surrounding the mansion. Let's see here. For a time, Cortijo Jurado thrived as a countryside leisure home for the Heredias, complete with a sprawling farmland and cattle ranching on its 45,000 square meters of land. Sounds like a lot. It's not actually a lot. It's like 11 and a half acres.
Oh.
So it sounds a lot bigger than it is.
Okay.
But the fortune did not favor them forever. In the early 20th century, economic troubles reportedly worsened by the vine-killing blight, which is actually kind of a famous thing. It killed a lot of wine crops in Spain and Italy.
I think I've heard of it.
Forced the family to sell the estate in 1925. The property changed hands several times, first to the prominent Larios family in the 1920s, and then later to others, including a doctor from Valladolid, before Vega Jurado acquired it in 1975, giving the mansion a new name that is known for today. The walls of Cortijo Jurado have witnessed many upheavals of Spanish history, including during the Spanish Civil War, specifically between 1936 and 1939. That was when the mansion was reportedly requisitioned as an improvised hospital, with its dank cellars repurposed as makeshift prisons. It is said that the prisoners were held and even executed by firing squad on the grounds during this time. If true, this clearly would add another layer of tragedy to the building's legacy.
Just a little bit.
After the war, the Cortijo Jurado was slowly slipped into abandonment as decades passed. By the dawn of the 21st century, it was an aging ruin, but one with a fearsome reputation that few ruins can claim. In 2002, developers announced bold plans to restore the mansion and build a luxury hotel complex on the surrounding land. There was even a high-profile groundbreaking ceremony in 2004 with Malaga's mayor laying the symbolic stone to launch the project, but fate, or perhaps the curse of the house, intervened. Years went by, and not a single brick for the hotel was ever laid. Legal troubles plagued the development company. Permits stalled, and lawsuits piled up over unpaid debts. The grand restoration never happened. Instead, Cortijo Jurado remained frozen in decay, its renovation stuck in limbo. Amid court auctions and bankruptcy woes, to this day, the mansion stands sealed off and crumbling, off limits to the public, yet that has not deterred a stream of curiosity seekers and paranormal investigators from going to the place.
Mm-hmm.
Cortijo Jurado's ominous nickname, the Casa Encantada, isn't just due to its eerie, boarded-up appearance. It comes from countless reports of unexplained phenomena that have been associated with the house for generations. Locals in the area have long whispered about strange sights and sounds emanating from the abandoned mansion after nightfall. Mysterious lights flicker in empty windows where no electricity exists. Fleeting shadows are often spotted, darting along the corridors or across the overgrown courtyard. Visitors frequently describe hearing unaccountable noises echoing through the halls, everything from disembodied whispers to moans to sudden loud bangs in the dead of the night. These sounds strike fear precisely because the building is deserted. As one journalist put it, many mysterious voices and strange sounds have been heard there without any explanation. Paranormal investigators consider Cortijo Jurado as a veritable spot of ghostly activity. Over the years, numerous ghost hunting teams and enthusiasts conducted vigils inside the mansion's decaying rooms. They claim to have captured a range of evidence from floating orbs and light that dance and zigzag on camera to eerie EVPs. In one investigation, researchers reported communications with entities via a spirit box device and video types that later revealed anomalous figures and shapes. Most chilling of all these apparitions is said to roam the house is a dark, human-shaped silhouettes have startled witnesses by gliding silently across rooms and then vanishing into walls. Some have described encountering a woman in black attire. Go figure, we got a black lady.
Yeah. So
we have a lady in black. I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah.
Forgive me. Who appears briefly at the end of the hallway or on the staircase before dissolving into thin air. Others speak of a more threatening presence, an inky black shadow being lurking in the corners of the basement, emitting a sense of dread before it too melts away into the darkness. A common experience shared by visitors is an unnerving feeling of being watched. More than a few explorers have reported the sensation of unseen eyes following their steps, as if something or someone peers in from the mansion's many windows whenever your back is turned. While skeptics might write off such feeling as an overactive imagination, longtime investigators note that the sheer frequency of similar reports from people who don't know each other lends to these puzzling claims it lends credence, really. So, no haunted locale is complete without a dark legend, and Cortijo Jurado's legends are especially grim. According to lore passed down over the decades, the mansion harbored a nightmarish secret in the late 1800s. The story goes that some members of the Heredia family, and perhaps their equally affluent friends, had perverse dark tastes hidden behind the estate's elegant facade. Whispers in the nearby villages spoke of vanishing young women between the 1890s and the 1920s. At least 5 girls from the area, ages varying in the retellings, but often said to be in their teens to early 20s, disappeared without a trace. Fear gripping the community as rumors swirled that these innocents were abducted and brought into Cortijo Jurado, where unspeakable rituals took place. The legends describe satanic or occult ceremonies being conducted there in the dead of the night in the mansion's bowels. The unfortunate girls were said to be subjected to torture and other violence as a part of demonic rites, ultimately being murdered in cold blood. Afterwards, their bodies were supposedly dragged down into the deep cellars of the house. Some would say their corpses were interred right there under the building, forming a secret mass grave of victims entombed beneath the estate. Other accounts claim the bodies were smuggled out through the network of tunnels or to be dumped along the Campanillas River. In fact, several of the missing girls' remains were allegedly found on the riverbanks, their bodies bearing the mark of horrific torture. So, to skip past a little bit of that and go into some first-hand encounters, you get the gist of the place. It's got the local legend that it's not a cool place.
Not cool.
Yeah.
It does have cool history, don't get me wrong, with the Civil War stuff and the farming stuff, but, and who knows how valid some of those
Sure.
Yeah.
rumors be.
Well, rumors are rumors, yeah.
So, some firsthand stories. One of them is we heard bangs, screams, and someone calling out the name Antonio. Recall 2 young women, Alba and Alejandra, who explored the house one night. The pair described venturing into the old chapel near the courtyard and filming with a video camera as they walked among the dusty pews. Nothing was visible on the visit, but when they watched the tape back later, they were astonished. In Alba's words, on the benches appeared a man sitting covered in a robe that hid his whole body and his head. But in reality, it's not as scary as they say. So these people were,
Gun or 8 feet.
Right. Another local investigator who gave his name as Oscar shared his own spine-tingling experience inside the Cortijo's crumbling rooms. Honestly, I wasn't any more afraid than of falling through the floor since the place is, well, falling apart, he said wryly. I did see something. I definitely saw something. In almost all of the photos we took, there were a bunch of glowing orbs, and in some you can make out a face. All right, ladies and gentlemen, not to discredit Oscar here. He saw what he saw.
Sorry, Oscar.
You went into an old abandoned building and kicked up dust in a chapel, is what you did.
Sorry, Oscar. Not credible.
Those faces, that's called matrixing, folks. It means you're matrixing. It means your brain makes up pictures that it thinks it sees. That said, though, even more shocking was the audio recording that Oscar captured. I recorded with my phone, and the recording you can hear a scream that didn't come from any of us. He says, if you can, record EVPs when you go. Do it. My recording caught a scream. There's my experience for whoever it helps. So, yeah, I mean, we like audio recorders around here. They're probably the most common and most authentic forms of stuff that we get on a regularly consistent basis.
What is that actually called? Pareidolia?
What?
Pareidolia?
What are you talking about?
Matrixing is... the technical term for it is pareidolia. When your brain is programmed literally to see faces.
Okay.
So that's how you can sort of make shit out of nothing.
Matrix.
Right.
I'm going to bet that, listen,
but
I'm not saying there's none out there, but I'm going to bet that most of our listeners are not doctors or scientists. Maybe scientists, probably less doctors.
Well, pareidolia goes towards everything. So there's visual, there's auditory.
Those are called hallucinations?
They're not, actually.
I'm just serious, I only get fined.
Yeah, so they're not technically no. They're not. It's your brain interpreting ambiguous stimuli to form something familiar.
Okay.
No?
Is that it?
I'm done now.
Of course, not all who enter Cortijo Jurado come out convinced. A visitor, Ava, writes that she has been there many times, and all you find is graffiti and vandalism, which is common and stuff like that. There's a place in near ruins that's creepy because of its structure and because of the stories they tell about it. But I don't think any of that is true. One gets suggestible hearing those tales. There's not one single proof that they're real. So, despite the fact that I don't necessarily agree with Ava when it comes to ghosts altogether, I definitely understand and agree with her perception of sometimes when a building looks creepy,
that's all it is.
Your mind makes up things that seem logical. Like, oh, I bet that place is haunted.
Mm-hmm.
So, nevertheless, today, Cortijo Jurado stands silently behind chain gates and graffiti-stained walls. The wind blows through its shattered windows, and stray cats scurry in the brush that have overtaken the once manicured grounds. So, all in all, it's a large, beautiful, run-down, creepy-looking building that I will or won't say that it's haunted because I've never been there. I've never been to Spain, but that's my place.
It's on the list.
It's on the list.
It does look absolutely beautiful, or like it was absolutely beautiful at one time.
Yeah, you said beautiful and rundown. I'm like,
I kind of like stuff like that.
No, I get it.
I'm super into the shit that nature takes back.
I agree with
Okay.
that.
Sorry, guess I'm in my. But all right, was that the end?
Yeah.
Okay. So I found a story, and first kind of glanced over because I was like, "Yeah, there's nothing really spooky in there," but then came back to it because it sparked an interesting conversation in my own head, and I'll read it now. And I'm going to read this article verbatim because it's a lot smarter than I am, so I'll just read it. The title of the article is Ghost May Die, in parentheses, after a lifespan of 100 years. Guy named Brian Sterling Vet, I hope I'm saying that right, maintains that intelligent paranormal entities may actually have a limited lifespan. Do ghosts live forever? Well, it seems strange to suggest that something thought of as a disembodied spirit or a dead person can itself die after a certain amount of time. Such a possibility has been gaining let me start again, because English, not today. Can gain it can die after a certain amount of time. Such as a possibility has been gaining traction in recent years among some paranormal researchers. One of these is Brian Sterling Vet, a veteran enthusiast of all things supernatural who has spent a considerable amount of time analyzing data collected from various paranormal investigators. According to his findings, sightings of famous ghosts in allegedly haunted locations around the world are occurring less and less frequently, especially those that have been around for 100 years or more. When all the data was considered, it was quite a shock to think that many of our once famous ghosts could be literally dying. It was apparent that famous ghosts in once notably haunted locations were being seen incredibly less frequently, and some had not been seen in many years. Our research suggests that sentient ghosts seem to have a limited lifespan, just like human beings. In simple terms, the second law of thermodynamics tells us that energy tends to disperse and degrade over time. I would argue that our findings show ghosts do conform to the second law of thermodynamics as they appear to run out of energy. Given that science does not even recognize the existence of ghosts in the first place, any research of this nature is not clearly definitive, but it does raise some interesting questions. If ghosts do exist, could they have a limited lifespan? If so, what happens when they die a second time? Could the mere possibility of something like this suggest that ghosts are in fact not necessarily dead or alive, but something else entirely? So, reading that article, I brought it up to these guys this week, and the conversation that followed was what I kind of expected. Teresa immediately was like, "That's awesome," blah, 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 went into fact checking.
Yeah.
Alex kind of talked for a little bit, then had a thought of his own, and then just stared for a little bit, and then went right into research.
He squirreled.
And then, squirreled, and then said, "Thanks, Joe," and then went to work. We've talked about it on the podcast before. And mind you, we had all talked about this going into a larger discussion vis-a-vis the roundtable. But we've talked about it on the podcast before about residual hauntings or intelligent hauntings turning into residual, or is a residual and in fact an intelligent haunting just kind of stuck until something brings it out. Yeah.
I refuse to have any such comments until the roundtable is made. Then I've said my piece.
In other words, he hasn't done the proper research on it yet in his mind.
Oh, I have, but this is definitely not a 10-minute conversation at the end of an episode, followed by a 55-minute roundtable discussion.
Right.
When in fact I can just make it a thick sode that's a roundtable discussion.
Yeah.
I found some shit. Okay.
Okay. Well, roundtable.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you all of it, but I'm going to tell you a little bit.
No.
Yes, I am.
I'm not going to allow you.
Well, you don't have a choice. And
I'll cut this recording right now.
Have at it. And the idea...
Active listening.
The idea is that the energy somehow
disperses.
I almost want to say recycles itself into something else because of the natural ebb and flow of energy and the way that it works, potentially causing a ghost, let's call it in terms we're aware of, let's call it a intelligent haunting, to over time for one reason or another, become a residual haunting, and then over time become literally nothing at all. And I found a lot that suggests that that is plausible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of research about energy and how it moves and how it works, and yeah,
Or if something else takes that energy that's being dispersed.
science will tell you that it's horsey poo.
I think the irony is that upon given this particular topic, all three of us being paranormal investigators, literally none of us were like, that's bullshit.
No, yeah, no.
They may have had some trepidation about it at first, like, yeah, hold on, let's look into this kind of thing. But yeah, I don't think any of us thought that.
Right.
I was more entertained and excited by the idea than I was.
There was a lot of science to suggest that it was horseshit, but then there was every bit as much science to suggest that
Science.
it's completely plausible.
I was going to say, let's be realistic. Science states that ghosts are horseshit. So,
yeah. But then there's also a whole lot of science that says that it could be possible if there was this factor and that factor and this factor.
Well, if all the scientific community is saying that it doesn't actually exist, just all it takes is one person saying, no, there's some credence to it. And
boom. Yeah.
But I thought it was an interesting discussion to bring up because both of their stories, yes, they had hauntings and all that, but your guys' stories have been around for what, say 100 years or so, maybe 60, 70, but close to 100. It kind of leaves credence to there's not, after a while it dissipates, a la us going to Waverly, and we know that's a haunted place. It's been reported many, many times as haunted. We didn't really get much.
We didn't get much at all.
And then people that have been going there religiously have, it's not as active as it used to be.
Yeah.
So, but then you get ones like Trans-Allegheny, who's always active.
Yeah.
So
can't confirm or not. Haven't been there yet.
Pseudoscience.
You know what I
mean. Pseudoscience suggests that pseudoscience relies on people's claims and tries to find science to explain why it could happen, where just your standard regular science does not have, and it's not that it has not been proven or disproven. With real factual science, the way that we think of it, the bottom line is that real science uses facts, hard evidence to prove or disprove things. And there just simply is no scientific evidence. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that they
have some evidence.
Don't know about it yet. They haven't figured out how to wrap their brains around it yet to describe it.
I'll be honest with you.
I agree with you, but
I see where you're going with it, and I understand I agree with what you're saying. However, to an extent, I also think it's a load of bullshit because I don't think that science really wants it to exist or cares that it exists or cares about the field itself whatsoever. Because there are plenty of scientific, I'm going to air quote it, you can call it facts all you want, that I'm like, that sounds like bullshit made up by somebody that's got a bunch of degrees and sounds and thinks they're way smarter than I. Like the fact that the universe miraculously just became the universe 2 billion years ago. Nothing was before that.
The universe hawk-tooed it and out come a human being.
So you're telling me it was just a big black inky void, no stars, no nothing before. So,
but let's not forget about all of the unfalsifiable claims that just no, the person can't prove that it happened, but science also cannot disprove that it happened. So
there within is with the problem that I have with the scientific community. Just because you can't prove it, they're like, it doesn't exist. Just because you can't prove something doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
And that's the point, though.
As a scientist,
a real scientist should know that even though they can't prove it, they also can't unprove it.
And that's the problem is a lot of the scientific community is like, no, it doesn't exist because I don't believe it.
Because I don't know how to explain it.
Well, the real problem is a lack of authentic evidence. And for every person that claims they have authentic evidence, there's somebody that's faked authentic evidence.
And that ruins the whole damn thing.
It's the recess effect of what I call the recess effect. It just takes one dummy for us all to be standing on a wall wasting time.
Which is why, like I said, with poor Oscar, I'm sorry, you got dust particles. All right.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
if it should be more on us as investigators to trump our own evidence before somebody else does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is a caveat to that.
I'm just saying, I
I
would
agree
much
with
rather
you.
say that my shit is bullshit.
Yeah. I agree with you on it. However, there are some instances, I'm not saying we have done it, but there are some instances where something has really been there and the other person didn't want to get made fun of, so they didn't do anything with it. Now, made fun of may have been a bad choice of words, but they didn't want to be discredited.
Didn't want to go through the ridicule.
Yes. And I'll have people digging into my life. I'll have people doing this. I don't want to deal with that, so I'll just, when you had literally the holy grail of evidence sitting right in front of you. So,
just like this whole physics question, that physics beliefs that they, on one hand, they have disproved that it could be possible, but on the same exact hand, the same exact shit that they're using, they're saying, no, that's not accurate. That actually proves the existence of ghosts. So
I'll get into that. We're not going to go too deep into that rabbit hole because
that's a big one that was focused on during the research. So there's a lot to unwrap there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, roundtable discussion, and I kind of knew that as soon as I read the article. I'm like, this is going to be more than one episode. So, and then when I told to these guys, I could tell by the look on their face, like, nope, we're going to go far into this one.
Mm-hmm.
So
he went really heavy into the physics. I went really heavy into the thermodynamics.
That's physics.
But the specific of thermodynamics.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Huh? So roundtable.
Yeah, we went a little crazy with the research, I think.
I mean, isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my story this week. I know it wasn't really scary, but I thought it was interesting for the discussion part of it. Yeah.
Indubitably.
So that's all I got.
I love it.
The roundtable.
So then we will, in fact, have a roundtable discussion. That will be at the end of this month, though. So look for that coming up.
Yeah. So with that being said, stories are over. Hit the socials.
Yeah. So definitely reach out to us, and especially you, person in Spain. We would love to hear your story, hear where you're from. Shoot us a message. You can email us at nolightsparanormal@gmail.com. You can look us up at nolightspara, P-A-R-A, on X, No Lights Paranormal on Facebook, No Lights Paranormal for your YouTubers. We do still have quite a few really, really fun videos and some audio up there for you. And then, of course, there is LinkedIn at No Lights Paranormal as well. So we have lots.
Yeah.
All right. So, either way, as you can tell, we had a good time tonight. Spain. I think Teresa and I had fun researching stuff in Spain.
Sure did.
Clearly, we had fun with Joe's topic, or we're about to have fun with Joe's topic. That said, one thing I do want to bring up, if you guys have any in-depth information on anything that we cover and you notice that we get anything wrong, for the love of God, please reach out.
Yeah, please. Because one thing that I want to make perfectly clear is that we find and report on stories from the web, which means that we do not travel to locations and immerse ourselves in the culture before we read you a story based on things we read on the internet.
So you're saying there's a chance we got it wrong.
And if we did, in fact, get it wrong, we wholeheartedly apologize. It is never what we strive to do, to take your culture with a lack of consideration. So come to us, bring it to us. We will correct ourselves.
Also, for the most part, most of our stories are haunted places, all right? Culture has very little to do with anything that we are covering. If we say that something happened in this particular village or, around this mansion,
it's
all right?
That's what we read.
That's the story that was reported that I read. But either way, if you know better and you want to tell me about it, I would be much happy to amend the shit I said.
I would absolutely love
to
to
a
hear
first-hand account.
the true story. And if you want your stories to be heard, shoot us an email at nolightsparanormal@gmail.com because we would love to be corrected.
That said, We love you. We had a great time.
We love you.
I can't wait to tell you all about thermodynamics.
I've created a monster.
Don't fuck with the Baba Yaga.
You wait 100 years to let it disperse.